Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Kay Cote, and I am your podcast on the show today. And today we have on the show Simon Lavin, Executive Director at Artel Rubber Holdings Limited. Today we're going to be learning all about his business, his journey to entrepreneurship, and what it's like to own and operate a business. We're going to cover some of those challenges he may have faced, as well as some of the things he has found success in. So it's going to give you that sneak peek into what it's like. And we're so excited to have you here today. So welcome to the show, Simon. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. I think it's going to be great.
It's going to be a great episode. Well, let's kick it off. Tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the business.
Well, I've been in this business for about 11 years now. Before that, I was in computing. And before that, I worked on a farm. So I left school without hardly any qualifications, but I just wanted to go out there and work. I didn't really have a clue what I wanted to do. So I left, started working on a farm. Ideally, I wanted to buy a farm. But looking at the prices of farms, it was quite ridiculous. You know, you have to have millions of pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, right, I'm going to have to start a business. So then the easiest business to get into was computing, fixing computers, you know, being quite logical that way. And that kind of grew into a business over about 8 years. I bought a few other businesses, consolidated them. And then I had a bit of tragedy in my life, which my wife at the time, she passed away. And she left me with 2 small children. And they were 3 and 1.5. So at that point, the IT business was a 24-hour business. And I wasn't really enjoying it because I was kind of just sat in front of a screen all day watching, you know, either complaints because the internet was down or the website was down. So I thought, you know what, I'll just sell it. So I sold the business. And one of my customers, in fact, was Artel. And I was speaking to the people who own Artel and, you know, how's things going. And they were kind of struggling a little bit. So I then said, right, okay, well, I'll buy into the business. So I bought into the business. There's 2 of us. We kind of changed the way it worked. So that's my very, very brief journey into Artel, from, you know, sat in front of a computer to actually making something which feels a little bit more worthwhile for me. You know, when I can see some trucks, buses, or ships, you know, around the world, you know that our small company here in the UK has something to do with keeping it running, which fills me with a bit of joy, really. Unless it breaks, obviously, but
So true.
it's not my fault.
Well, thank you for sharing your story, and just, you know, it's just such a heartfelt story. So I thank you for sharing that. And I'd like to dive into the business a little deeper. Tell me about, you know, your business, and when it comes to like your team that you've built around your business, because a business like this is, I always feel, run by a really awesome team. So can you share about what does your team look like? How many team members do you have right now?
So we're a relatively small manufacturer. We've got 38 staff, and because the margins are not necessarily amazing in manufacturing itself, you have to have just a brilliant team. We've over the last 12 years, I would say, we've tried to get the best people we can, to recruit the best people we can, and make sure that they stay. You know, it's quite simple. What we want to do, myself and my business partner, is to eventually step back. So we have a good management team in place, and then we can concentrate on doing something else. And it probably took a good 6 or 7 years to find the right people who are passionate. So there's 2 of us who own the business. Then we have a production manager who basically looks after the factory getting the product out, but is also in charge, not in charge of, but he's quite good financially. So he makes sure the profit and loss is in the right way. Then we have a sales manager who looks after all the incoming sales, dealing with the customers. And then we have the finance manager. And she's very important because she makes sure that we collect the money. And she comes up to me and moans when we've got issues with not paying or people not paying. So those are the three main key management team. And then everybody pretty much else, we have the production team, and then the sales team and the marketing is involved in that as well.
Wow. Well, let's dive into the marketing. You know, as say I was like an ideal client that would walk through your doors, like how would I know I'd be a good fit for you?
So our client base is a really wide client base. We have big, big OEMs who come to us, but they're generally wanting prototype parts. So we basically work for engine manufacturers, anything that needs cooling, fluid cooling. So it could be, we do wind turbines, we do truck and bus, we do ships, we do transfer fluids for pharmaceutical drug companies and things like that. So we do quite a varying different load of products. The big companies, when they come to us, they want the prototypes, but generally or not, then they will be offshored to a very low cost country for the 300,000-400,000 parts that they want a year. Our kind of sweet spot is when it's a high demanding, high pressured kind of requirement that they need. And that's when we can step in and go, well, we're quite experts on polymers. So we know if you've got certain pressures, certain temperatures, certain, things going through the hoses, that's what we're really good at. And we do a lot of, not consulting, but a lot of people will ask us what's the best thing, and then we can go with solutions. We kind of work with their engineering teams first before we work with the buyers, because that's where we like to help. Solving a problem is a bit more fun, and I think with our customers we try and make sure they're just not a number. So we try not to have the one-off hits, if you know what I mean. We don't want to have one customer and then just say, well, it's only one product or one deal and then it's gone. We want to work with the customers long term because it's just easier for us, and it's kind of a proud moment as well to see a customer, well, for me anyway, because I own the business, is to have a customer there and you work with the engineers at the beginning. You're advising them to say, well, perhaps that's a bit too much, or that isn't. And then when you see the final product and it's going out the door, it kind of gives you a bit of warm, fuzzy feeling, as some people say. Probably not me, but yeah.
Oh, I definitely understand. Longevity with customers
Yeah,
is,
it's
I think that,
lovely. Yeah,
yeah, it's
you
really
can't
great.
beat it. And then a lot of our customers at the moment, we've got really good relationships with, especially my business partner who does the high level sales. He often meets the customers. You can always tell when we have a very good customer because there's a lot of what you call banter going on. And
Yes.
sometimes it borders on abuse. You say to him, you can't say that. And then you hear the customer saying it back and it's like, oh, right, that's fine. But, it's that kind of relationship where they know that, and I think this sets us apart, is if anything happens, we'll do anything to resolve it. We've been, 24-hour couriers. If a problem's arrived at someone's factory, anyone can call me anytime and we'll get it sorted. And I think that's the difference from us to a big corporate, that once 5 o'clock comes, we're still on. Unfortunately. Unfortunately.
Well, that's incredible though, just to hear like that customer relationship and building that and continuing that. is something that you strive for. And what has been, a key factor in keeping that going? Because I know there's a lot of challenges with like organizing customers or keeping those relationships going. How do you find some best practices to keep those relationships really
Uh,
strong?
So we've gone through, the hardest part is getting a customer.
Mm,
Um,
mhm,
that that's always the hardest thing because there's only a certain amount of customers around the world that use our products. You have the big boys who are, multi-billion pound companies, and there's no point in going up against them because, I remember once we phoned Ford, the motor company, and said, right, how do we get onto your supplier list? And they said, how many, plants do you have around the world? And it's like, well, we have two little ones in the UK. And they were, when you've got 15, give us a call. So
mhm,
and at that point you go, right, okay, so that we had to look at our sweet spot. We don't necessarily want to be speaking with the Ford buyers or people like that and going, right, an open book, you're only allowed to make 1% margin and that. We want to provide the service um, that people appreciate and we go a little bit for. And I think that's what comes across for the customers. So once we generally get a customer, as long as they don't change the product and we keep up to what we do, we deliver on time, we don't have failures, um, and we don't put the price up 400%, then generally or not, then they stay with us. Um, it's a lot of it, I would say, is down to relationships,
mhm.
picking up the phone. People buy off people. We have quite a lot of business in Europe. And the reason we have that is only because of the relationship. You know, they don't need to buy from the UK, but they do because of the relationships they've got with the team. Uh, it's all well known about our product around the marketplace, but without the team around us, we just wouldn't gain the traction that we have done, basically.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense, and that's incredible. I think that's a really great, just a great nugget of advice for anyone listening to this podcast is, just to like look at the relationship that you're building and look at
Yeah,
your
it's
customers
it's
as
just getting,
relationships.
we always have this argument with some, not an argument. We always have this conversation with people, and you can always tell when you're speaking to a customer if they prefer an email because they don't like picking up the phones, or you literally pick up the phone and you have a conversation, or WhatsApp or whatever it is, is the best way of communicating somebody. Because if I've got suppliers and I'm getting phone calls every 3 minutes, you get quite annoyed. It's like, just leave me alone for a bit. I'll if I need anything, all good. I'll speak to you every 6 months. I've got no complaints, happy days. So
Mhm.
it's understanding the customer if they want a phone call, to keep in touch, or you just send them, an email once in a while, um, just saying how are things, anything we can do, can we meet up, or can we have a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting? But a lot of our customers say, if you don't hear from me, that's a good thing. You know,
Mhm.
so if you hear from me, something's gone wrong, which means a hose has burst, or a train's off the rails or something like that. So that's what we try and do.
Oh, definitely. Well, I want to circle back to something you brought up about, acquiring new customers when you're building these great relationships with the customers you have. What are some of the challenges you're currently facing when it comes to building up new clientele?
So we've only taken on recently a marketing chap
Hmm.
who is to get us back into looking for new customers. Our main market, the one that we've been trying to get into, is a lot of it's in France. Now, the bureaucracy around speaking to a buyer or speaking to the engineering team is very, very difficult. Buyers are a bit like in any business, buyers are notorious for not speaking to you because they're going to be phoned up every single day with people like, our business saying, oh, we can do this for cheaper and et cetera, et cetera. So you can understand why buyers don't want to speak to you. The way that we try and do it is speaking to the engineers. The engineers design the product. You know, they're the ones right at the beginning. If they need any help or any advice, you know, once we've made the initial contact, it's like, we're not going to charge you anything. Just give us a call. We can offer some advice. Now, unfortunately, our sales cycle, it means it takes a little bit longer. But it does mean that once we've got the engineer and we've solved some problems, you know, and the drawings, the technical drawings that we've done or we've advised on, a lot of the time, then that's changed to us. So when it's handed to the buyer to go and source it, it's got our name on it. And therefore, it's an easy win, or easier win, as long as the price is right. But so that's the kind of main thing, is making sure we're ticking every box throughout their business. Our marketing, other than that, is quite basic, really. You know, the website, we do obviously a bit of LinkedIn and things. We need to really embrace social media, which we don't. We're rubbish at it, which is bad.
Oh, yeah. Social media can be a beast in itself.
Yeah.
For,
Well, yeah.
yeah. What are
But
some ways you want to integrate more social media into your business?
yeah, I think with a lot of things, you know, keeping, if the internet, you know, 15 years ago, you had, you know, news on your, you know, you had home, about us, news, contact us, product, services on your website traditionally. And everyone always used to forget to update it. You know, the news was last done, you know, last updated 15 years ago, and it was just about how we're doing a show somewhere. And I think that's just that's moved on, and people are afraid now of embracing a bit more of the web. You know, how can we get our name out there to half the, you know, half the population, not to buy hoses, but just a bit of brand awareness for people to go, oh, we've seen that. You know, I've seen, we have processes in this factory called milling and calendaring, where we've seen people put silicon, white clear silicon, into a milling machine, and it's quite satisfying. And you put a bit of master batch in and red, and then it changes red, and people watch that because they're amazed how it, you know, I don't know if you have, it's kind of,
Yes.
and they can see,
ASMR. It's like
yeah, well,
ASMR. Yeah, I
yeah,
completely.
exactly, yeah, and then just
It's
watch it.
trance. It's like a trance, and people like that satisfying component. So I think that's a great concept of just
Yeah,
like almost like brand storytelling in a really unique way, like a little behind the scenes and
this is exactly it. Yeah, what happens? You know, we get silicon in big blocks,
Mhm.
and then we basically squash it out. So if
Yeah.
you, I don't know if you know or seen or used a pasta rolling machine,
Hmm.
right? So think of one of those, but it's about 25 tons. Looks exactly the same. It's massive. So we get like pasta or dough in big blocks, and then we squash it out into
Uh-huh.
thin, depending on what the customer needs, thin layers. And you know, I've been called a bit stupid by going downstairs and gone, do you know what? I think people would like to watch that. Yeah,
I
well, there you
watch.
go.
I
Yeah,
mean, I think it's educational and it's almost like that how I built this kind of vibe, or
yeah,
you get that kind of people will be like, "Oh, I get it now." And it's like play work, baking, like it's
yeah,
kind of the same
yeah.
process. That's really cool.
Yeah, when we ever take people around the factory, they go, well, I've never been around, so can I come and see how a hose is made? And for
Mhm.
us, it's kind of a bit boring now because we know how it's made, but no one has a clue how you make a radiator hose or a silicon shaped hose. And they're
Yeah.
really surprised when you tell them that it's handmade, and it is handmade.
Mhm.
So, you know, we have people stood there and wrapping silicon around a metal form. And it has to be taped and put in the oven. And it's quite an amazing process when you look at it, because nobody has a clue on about, you know, you don't just go into work, press a button and out spits, you know, different shaped hoses. I'd love it if that could happen, but unfortunately, there's no machine that can do it. Yeah, but that's the, it's the marketing of it is making more brand awareness, making us go, if we wanted to target a large bus company in America or wherever, I think you've got to get people to look at that side of the business to go, oh, right, they actually do manufacture it. They don't just buy it in. They do know what they're doing. And I think that builds confidence in a business.
Oh, definitely. That's
Yeah.
incredible. I really like that, just that mindset of like the storytelling and the importance that it has on business. And this has been an incredible conversation. And I want to dive into a fun part of the conversation called our rapid fire questions, where we ask you four questions to answer top of
Yep.
mind.
Yep.
All
Sounds good to
right.
me. Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. Question number one is, what is a key to success for you?
Persistence,
Hmm.
without a shadow of a doubt. I know it's quick fire, so I won't go on. You're going to get knocked down. You've got to get up. It's simple as that.
Yes, just like the Chumbawamba song, I always say.
Absolutely, yeah, without the drinking.
Without the
Well, not yet,
drinking.
anyway. But yeah.
And question number two, what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
Look at the detail, look at the costs. It's so
Mm,
easy to be wrapped up on getting sales in and getting it out the door, but if you don't have the right costs in the business, you're not going to make any money.
that is true. And number three, what is a book or piece of content, could be a podcast, anything that you've taken in most recently?
Um, I Not a lot of people are going to like this, but I like the countryside. So I've been watching quite a bit of details on like farming programs. It
Mhm.
fascinates me how stuff grows, how it's sold and yeah, that kind of thing. So that's what interests me at the moment. How
Oh,
I've got a bit of land at home, so that's what I do as well.
Oh, that's incredible. Me too. I actually have a recommendation. It's called Kiss the Ground. Uh,
Right, okay.
yeah, it's a documentary. I think it's on Netflix. It's just something that it's
How is
all
it?
about regenerative soil and just like some really cool growing techniques and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. That just, yeah. I mean, we've done chickens and pigs and stuff like that at home, so yeah, never know what's next.
Our final question out of the rapid fire is, if you could wave a magic wand and rapidly overnight improve one aspect of your business, what would it be?
Data.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So data for me is everything. Or IT systems, data, I think that's such a key. Without data, your business really struggles, I think,
Oh,
massively.
definitely. I
Yeah.
definitely knowing like numbers are one of those things that are like a magic. They are like a magic wand. You can see them
Yeah.
and work with them, and data is a
Yeah.
huge part of
Yeah.
that.
Every day, before business, people were going, well, what KPIs do you have? And when I started, I didn't have a clue what a KPI was.
Mhm.
But now it's like, oh, we could do a KPI, we could find out, finding out, then you can do the data with it. And then you can see where your business is going wrong. The more details and the more spreadsheets. And I know it's a bit boring for some people, but I quite like a spreadsheet now and again. Sadly.
Oh, well, that is great advice. And before we get to our final question today, how can people connect with you and find you online?
Artelrubber.co.uk, LinkedIn. Um, yeah, they're the best ways, of Simon at artelrubber.co.uk is my email address. So I'm always checking my emails, unfortunately. Last thing at night, first thing in the morning. But I think as a business owner, you do, don't you?
Very
That's the
true.
best way. Yeah, that'd be great.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Simon, for this great conversation. For our final question today, what is most inspiring to you today?
I'm kind of passionate about what I do, so I like what I do. And what inspires me is just getting better at what we do. You know, I want to spend more time with my kids at home. In order to do that, I need to do better. So yeah, whether that'll happen or not, but you've got to aspire to it, don't you? Yeah, you've got to try to really do better in your life, I think.
Oh, well, definitely. Well, again, thank you, Simon. This has been inspiring to me as well as our listeners. And again, listeners, definitely like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop episodes like this, where we hear from great folks like Simon. So thanks for being on the show.
Pleasure. Thank you.